We're going to graph this piecewise function. This is a pretty complicated one because it has three different parts, three different functions. So it asks you to include tables in your work. So I've done a screenshot of what you can do in your calculator. So I just typed in these three different functions. So I typed in negative x minus 1 into y1. So that's this one right here. And then I typed in x squared into y2. And then the last one is 2, which I typed into y3. And then those gave me my tables. So the first thing we want to do in our graph here is put in our boundary lines. So I see that I have two boundary lines. One of them is going to be at -1. So I'm going to put a vertical boundary line at -1. Remember that boundary lines are always vertical. And then I have another boundary line at +3. So I'm going to go to +3 and put in a vertical boundary line. All right, now I need three tables. The first table is going to be for my first function, the blue one. So I'm going to do x, y, and I want to start at my boundary number, which is -1. And then if you look, this sign is pointing to the left, so that means I want my numbers to go down. You can also look here on the graph. If you start at the green line and go to the left, that's where the blue function is going to go. So I want to do -2, -3, and -4. For the red table, whenever you have a compound inequality, and that's this right here where you have two inequality signs, you always want to start and stop wherever it tells you to. So this is saying that x is between -1 and 3, so I'm going to do -1, 0, 1, 2, and 3. So now I've included both of those boundary numbers. And then the last one is third function, and I want to start my table at the boundary number, which is 3, and then I'm going to be going to numbers greater than 3 or to the right of 3, so 4, 5, 6, and that should be enough numbers. Now we need to talk about open and closed circles. If you look at the very first inequality, this does not have the bar underneath it, so that means that this is going to be an open circle at -1. Which then means that if I go to my second one, I do have the closed circle at -1. So remember, you're only going to have one of each at the same number. You'll never have two opens or two closed. All right, now if you look at the second part of my inequality, this part right here, I have an open circle because the inequality doesn't have the bar underneath it. And then last but not least, if you look at the last final inequality, it does have the bar underneath it. So at 3, we're going to have the closed circle. All right, so here we go. I'm going to copy down from my table the points that I want. So from the blue numbers, remember that I'm going down in numbers, so I'm going to use these 4. So at -1 I have 0, and then 1, 2, and 3. On the red numbers, I want to start at -1, and I want to stop at +3. So these are the y values that I want. So 1, 0, 1, 4, and 9. And then lastly, the black numbers, I want to start at 3 and I want to go to 6. And these are all 2. This is one of those constant functions, so this is going to be a horizontal line. So now we are actually ready to graph. So now I'm going to graph my points starting from my lowest x value. So I'm going to start at -4 at +3. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. -3, 2. -2, 1, and then an open circle at -1, 0. So my first graph is a diagonal line, and it stops at that green line. Okay, my next graph that's in between my two boundary lines is going to start at -1, 1. So left 1, up 1, and this is a closed circle. And then I have points at 0, 0, 1, 1, 2, 4, and then at 3, 9 I have an open circle. So this is like the middle section of a parabola. And then my last part of the graph, remember, is a horizontal line. So at 3, 2, I have a closed circle. And then I just have little points going off to the right for my horizontal line.